is up, Buttercups? So this video is going to be part of a two-video series. I guess calling it a two-video series is a little ridiculous because, like, is two really a series? Whatever. That's neither here nor there. Regardless, I'm going to be doing two videos about sexual harassment that I've experienced in my life. This video is going to be regarding the physical harassment and the, like, in-person sexual harassment I've experienced. And then the next video is going to be more about, like, the online harassment, things like dick pics and the messages I've received. This video is probably going to be a bit of a downer for some people, but the next video should be a little more uplifting for those same people. So hopefully, you stick with me. I keep touching my hair. It's such a bad habit, but, like, oh, it just bugs me. I guess I'm just going to get right into it. Before I start talking about the harassment itself, I do feel the need to point out that I don't view myself as a victim. I generally don't victimize myself. I've taken martial arts classes since I was in elementary school. I currently do steel fighting, which is basically equivalent to, like, mixed martial arts and medieval fight club combined. I generally practice with 200 and 300 pound men that are in very good shape and very strong. And so, I view myself as a pretty tough woman. I can take care of myself. I know how to handle myself. I view myself as capable. Despite that, there are still situations in which men have made me feel unsafe or have otherwise negatively impacted my life. So I'm going to talk about those a little bit in this video. So sexual harassment started for me probably when I was around 12. I've always had one of those faces where I just looked older than I was, even though I didn't have a super developed body at 12. I've always had a face that looks a little bit older, and so that's generally when the creeps started coming out of the woodwork. I think it wasn't so bad when I was really young, even at that age, because I lived in a small town, but whenever I would go into the city, I would notice instances like that happening more often. I think the one I remember most distinctly, though, was actually while I was working in the town next to my hometown. I was working in JCPenney in Eastern Washington. It was my first job. I was 16. At this point, the uniforms were informal enough that we were allowed to wear jeans, so I was wearing jeans and I think a button down, and I had, like, my little name tag on. And then a family came into the store, and I helped them find, like, jeans and clothes and, like, whatever, and they asked me some questions, and I answered them and showed them around. I was, like, one of those above and beyond customer service people where I, like, really actually did care about making their shopping experience good, even though I made shit wages. So I really did, go the extra mile for my customers, and I had a lovely conversation with, like, the mother in this family, and she and the children then went into the fitting room and were trying on clothes, and her husband stayed out, and usually the dads go sit in what I refer to as the dad chair, which is, like, this chair by the door where men would usually sit while they were waiting for their wives to finish shopping. And so, I wasn't paying attention to him. I went over and started folding sweaters, and suddenly I feel him pressing up against me. He's literally pressing, like, the length of his body against mine, and then he leans over and whispers in my ear, "Make them jeans look good." So this dude's, like, in his 50s, or at least his late 40s. Like, he's way too old to be hitting on me. And obviously I'm at work, so I'm not really asking to be hit on right now. Thank you very much, random motherfucker. And I didn't know what to do because, his wife was in the fitting room. She was, like, right there. So I couldn't very well, like, freak out and report it, because then, like, I don't know, I would basically, like, ruin this random nice lady's life. Now I kind of wish I told her. I sort of regret not telling her, because I think she deserves to know that her husband is a piece of shit that hits on teenage girls. But I didn't, because I was too nervous. And in that instance, I think I did victimize myself a little. I didn't realize what kinds of rights and courses of action I could take, so I didn't take any, and I really regret that. And then another instance that happened at work that I really remember distinctly was when I first moved to Seattle and I started working in one of the Costco's. I was a vendor, so I wasn't working for Costco, just in Costco. And I was in the electronics section selling HP computers, and this male coworker would, like, come up to me and like make lewd comments about my body and ask me out on dates and then tell me weird details about his sex life that I really didn't want to know. I then eventually politely told him that I wanted to keep our relationship professional and that I had no interest in him romantically and that I would prefer he didn't discuss any of those subjects with me further. And then he did. So I eventually told a supervisor, both my vendor and like the supervisor in the store, and he was fired. And the really upsetting part of that, honestly, is that a lot of his coworkers that were his friends got really upset with me and were really cold to me after that because they blamed me for getting him fired, which I think is ridiculously unfair. I gave him every single opportunity to change his behavior. In my personal view, after you've been warned the way I warned him, anything that happens as a result is entirely your fault. I am blameless. So that was really shitty. I've also had a lot of issues where, just walking down the street, like they vary. Like if I'm walking down the street and a random guy's like, hey, which is probably the most common thing that happens, like, I mean, at this point I find it a little bit annoying, but I don't do anything about it. It's no big deal. If they seem like they're just being polite, then I just say, hey, or hello, or good morning, or whatever, and then keep walking. Other times, though, it does actually get really scary. I've had several instances where either individual men or groups of men have followed me for long distances, and I do like take weird routes to test if they're following me when I suspect that they're following me. And generally, I'm unfortunately confirming that they're following me. And I've had to like call rides home and then have them take weird routes to my house because I don't want random creeps to know where I live. I had like this one dude follow me for like 20 minutes and he kept trying to talk to me and I politely told him I wasn't interested and he still followed me for really, really long ways. Especially when it's a group, though, is when I find it really scary because, one-on-one, I feel like with the element of surprise, I'd be okay. But with a group of men, if they wanted to hurt me, they could probably hurt me, especially if it's in like a less populated area, where there are less people around, like in the residential area where I live. So I don't know, there have been some really frightening experiences. On public transportation, I've been groped a few times. I've had men like run their hands up my thighs. I've had men try to grab my breasts. I've had men grab my ass. And even when, you do the like, I'm not interested thing, like you have your headphones in, I had my headphones in and I was watching a movie on my phone. And this one dude sits down next to me, like reaches up to my ear, takes out my headphone, and proceeds to start hitting on me. When I tell him, no thank you, I'm not interested, I'd like to get back to my movie now, he asks me if I want to get off at his stop, and I say no. And then as if, this part's actually kind of funny, in like a last-ditch effort to make me change my mind, he's like, oh, well, I know Macklemore personally. And so I'm like, okay, then ask Macklemore on a date. So yeah, I've experienced a lot of things like that. I've experienced just pretty much every part of the spectrum besides actual, like, full-on rape I've experienced to some degree from random men. So I think there is some legitimacy to the idea that women don't feel safe walking down the street, because I know a lot of the time I don't, and I'm a uniquely pretty capable woman. You can't tell on camera either, but I'm also 5'9" and very sturdily built. So I'm not even like a particularly small woman. I'm the size of many average men, and I still feel really unsafe a lot of the time. So that's just kind of my personal experiences with sexual and street harassment. There have been a whole bunch more, but just way too many to detail in this video. To my fellow women out there who are dealing with this, obviously trans women included, to me that's implied when I say women, but I now have to be explicit. Like, to cis and trans women out there who are experiencing this, like, it sucks. I feel it, I'm there with you, and if I see a man harassing you and I am there, I will step in and I will say something, and that is my guarantee to you. All I can hope is that you all continue to show solidarity with other women, and to the men watching this video, if you don't personally harass women, I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think all men are bad people. I don't think all men are like evil sexual harassers. But I would encourage you to, when you see men either harassing or following or touching a woman against her will, I would encourage you to intervene. If it's safe, I would encourage you to say something and not be silent. And if you find yourself doing any of these behaviors, I'd really just encourage you to check yourself and try not to. Well, not try not to. It's not that hard not to. Just don't. It's that simple. Like, if you see a strange woman walking down the street and you like the way she looks and you want to tell her, maybe just don't. Sometimes I've had a guy come up to me and say, you look really beautiful today, and then they just walk away. And that's fine. That's totally fine. It's all about context and, whether you're actually being a creep or whether you're just paying someone a compliment and then leaving. The leaving part is important. If you tell me I'm pretty and then follow me for 3 blocks, I don't consider it a compliment. It's just creepy. So I know this video went a little bit over, but I think it's a really important issue, and I think that in this case, kind of being able to give you the full context of my personal experiences was important, so I'm not gonna cut it or edit it or anything. But yeah, women in the comments, please tell me about your own sexual harassment or assault stories if you feel comfortable talking about them. Men, feel free to either just give me your 2 cents or talk about what you've seen or what you do or how you view this issue. And if you want to, comment, and subscribe. But beyond that, you have a spectacular rest of your day. And I will be back soon with a great video about dick pics.